I want to take a wild guess what we're starting with, guys. Oh. Yeah, we gotta start with a caddy video. We gotta start with a caddy video. It's just gotta happen. Yeah, look at all the tabs I have open. Look at all that. Look at all that. We got a lot to catch up on. And I need to find a way to organize the recommended videos for me to watch. Because it's like some of them are from comments on different YouTube videos on my channel, and then some are from Discord, and then some are just randomly talked about in chat on here on Twitch. So it's like I need to find like a setup to compile all of them to make it more organized, because I'm so disorganized, y'all. Yeah, it's bad. Oh, is this the one you recommended? See, it's been so long I can't even remember. That's how bad it is. Maybe a Google Doc could work. Listen, could someone just make me an app? Could you imagine someone just randomly make me an app just to organize my recommended videos? It'd be fucking ridiculous. Ridiculous. Alright. Let's go with the old caddy video, PlayStation Classic. Not full volume. That'll break my ears. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, after a long hiatus and the beginning of a new year, it is my pleasure to welcome back to YouTube today, Caddicarus!
Oh my god.
Now, Caddy, please tell us, how are you feeling? Are you ready for 2019?
We'd love to see it.
That's great, because here's
2019. Oh. The year before it all went to shit. We thought we had bad years and bad months and bad days, but boy, did we not realize after 2019 how downhill it was really gonna go. Yeah, it's like the sleepy app of catch-upiness. He's like, someone needs to make me an app, because I'm so bad at organization. It's so bad, you guys.
how it starts.
The skip caddy character.
What are you playing at? Why have I got to do this? What? Do I look like a fool to you?
Well, caddy.
Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back, my ass. Welcome back, my ass. I haven't had such a cold welcome back to anything before since the last time I forgot to add hot water to my bath and jumped right on in. The neighbors thought I sat on the cat. I mean, come on, Sony. I built my entire career on you.
The neighbors were mentioned. Guys, this is an alert. Everyone, this is not a drill. The neighbors were fucking mentioned. The neighbors were fucking mentioned. Not a drill. Not a drill.
YouTube off of the games that occupy the PS1. The great and the terrible. The iconic and the desperate. The games that I was raised on and helped mold me into the person that I am today. Yeah. I learned a lot of life lessons from
mentions of the neighbors as well.
Escape. So to see how blatantly bad the PlayStation Classic turned out to be after so much promise and a brilliant teaser showing off 5 of the 20 games featured that were all a pretty damn great start doesn't even make me angry, just totally apathetic to the whole thing. I'm sure many of you out there were expecting me to get totally enraged over this thing, but to be honest, I just don't have the heart for it today.
This is about the when they tried to remake the old consoles and they were like, I didn't bother with them because I still have most of my original consoles. But if this is what I'm thinking about, didn't all the new, quote unquote, new versions of the old consoles weren't like the controllers, like the wires for the controllers, they were like barely a foot long. Like you couldn't go anywhere. You had to like sit on top of the console to play it. Like they were so bad. If I'm remembering right.
And sometimes that can be a worse sensation than being completely fueled by hate over something. It's like my teachers always said to me, I'm not angry. I'm quite drunk.
And I couldn't believe I would be saying this today. I mean, after all, not only were PlayStation themselves kind enough to send me the PS Classic in time for Christmas with my own special Christmas card, but even after tearing through the adorable custom wrapping paper to feast my gaze on the packaging for this thing, my god, this is like junk food for my eyes. I'm just gonna spoil it for you right now. They put more effort into this retro-style nostalgic packaging than they did for the bit of plastic bum inside it. And once you get the thing out itself, admittedly, it is just as cute to me as the NES Classic and SNES Classic. It's the system that defined my childhood, but babyfied. I can't handle it. Even the controllers, despite being basic USB wired controllers, have custom ends so it doesn't feel out of place plugged into the mini little thing. Even the SNES Classic doesn't do that.
But the rest of it is a load of old. To start with, the thing didn't even work for me initially, and to show you in a little bit more detail as to what I mean, we have to make our way over to the telly, okay?
So, the PS Classic. It's there. Do you see it? Okay, so usually the system would have a small glowing orange light to let you know that it's on standby mode, but my light isn't on. Why is this? Because it isn't plugged in yet. What is plugged in is my SNES Classic. It's connected directly to the USB port of my TV, and that is enough to get it to... Oh, yep, there it goes. It's on. How lovely. When it comes to the PS Classic, though, well, we need to go behind my TV with my special plug cam so you can see me working on it in real time. So here we are with the plug cam and... So here we are with the maximum fire hazard cam.
Oh god, behind the scenes, the fire hazard of all fire hazards that you just plug in and try to forget is there. Like the way I'm looking at my fire hazard of wires and the way I just want to toss it all out is infuriating. Because this is like it's like this on screen right here is basically what is on in my room. And like the way I have it set up, I can't hide it. Because my room is so weird and the way I have to plug shit in. It's like unless I put a wall in front of my wall, like I can't hide it. It's so aggravating.
And as you can see, right now the SNES Classic is plugged into the TV. You saw it working a second ago with it like that. But what happens when I switch the cable around to the USB plugged into the PS Classic? A big load of fat, useless nothing.
Who made this? Soldier Boy.
Yeah, the PS Classic doesn't work with the power of my TV or any other USB device. The only way for me to get this thing working was by plugging it into the mains with a USB adapter, which I just so happen to already have. But this is a major flaw in the design of the thing right out the box. The SNES Classic doesn't come with a USB mains adapter, yet works perfectly well directly off of my TV's USB slot. The PlayStation Classic doesn't come with a USB mains adapter, and yet doesn't work at all without it plugged into a wall. I know they're assuming we'd all have spare adapters in our modern homes, but if that's the case, why include a HDMI cable? I've got so many HDMI cables lounging around my house, I could hang myself with them.
Sometimes I look at all those cables and I'm like, listen, just go ahead and set on fire and just let me start all over. I can't afford to start over. I would just have to like live outside in a tent because I'm so broke. But you know, sometimes the dream is there. It's like I just want to burn the place down and start over. Okay, it's too much. It's too much.
But adapters are not as common as you'd assume, Sony.
Enough complaints though, we haven't even started the thing yet, so let's boot up the PS Classic and see how much better it could possibly get.
Yeah, even I must admit that the PS Classic boots up as perfectly as I could have ever imagined. It's simple and probably means nothing to a lot of you, but this is everything to me. And as soon as the system loads up the main menu, this thing has possibly the blandest damn menu I have ever seen in my life. I know it's trying to replicate the BIOS menu when you boot up the PS1 without a disc inside, but to be honest, not only did I not grow up with this ugly runt of an art style, our pal PS1 my family had looked like this, but would it have killed to have some music or something at least? Anything to give this any character that it rightfully deserves? Hell, it would have been better if they made the menu look like my old PS1 demo discs from magazines years ago and used the songs that were on those discs.
Oh, it's actually hurting my eyes a little bit.
Compare this again to the SNES Classic. You turn
Can we get a moment of silence for that fucking price? Boy, did we not realize. Boy, did we not realize. That price. Wow. Wow. Goodwill and a generator living in the isolationist dream. Yeah, I don't know if I would, like, tint. Maybe temporary, but I wouldn't mind one of those old tiny camper things. It's like, as long as I have air conditioning, internet, and no, that's pretty much it. I wouldn't mind plumbing. But internet and air conditioning is like the top tier. Unless I'm living somewhere where it's permanently cold, then just the internet part.
On and are immediately smacked in the face with its charm. It's not only a vastly superior user interface with a better layout, but listen to that upbeat, giddy music. Look at the amount of things going on. The SNES Classic embraces its heritage and makes something new and unique from it that you just wouldn't get from basic emulation on a PC. This just doesn't cut it. I've seen plug-in and play sets that have more effort put into its presentation, and that's including the Spider-Man one where you move him around with his dong. Even with the SNES Classic, you can pick different borders and backgrounds for the games for yet more charm and character to your experience. You can order the list of games on the menu based on lots of different criteria, turn on screen burn-in reduction if your TV is susceptible, and even make the games look like they're running on an old CRT TV. The PS Classic? Well, you can not only turn the entire system off if it hasn't been used for longer than 60 minutes, but also dim the screen after 5 minutes.
Whoa! Slow down, sir!
And that's it. I'm not joking. That's all you can do with this thing. And so even though all the games have the same 720p output that the SNES Classic has, you'll find that the PS Classic just doesn't do much else besides, well, run the games.
I am also fully aware that emulation on a PC itself isn't legal, but you'll But you'll find with things like this is that you're paying more for the novelty of the thing than the value of having all the games on one package. So my question is, why not make the thing that you're paying for more novel? I mean, why don't you make what you have a better option by default than emulation?
You know what else emulation has over this thing? Save states. This thing only has one save state per game. One save state per game. It does have a virtual memory card built in, but come on, the SNES Classic once again...
I think I was talking about this the other day with, might have been Yomi. We was talking about something, I can't remember, but it was, the topic got brought up where it's like, how do you fuck up remakes? Like, how do you fuck up basically remaking the same thing? Like, you already know what people liked about the thing from the past. All you gotta do is make it look a little shinier, a little newer, spruce it up a bit, you know. Make it look a little dressed up and fancy, maybe. And then that's it. But I've noticed a trend, like, not just in video games, but in, like, movies and shows and shit, where it's like, they know what worked, they know what people liked. How can you screw it up? Because it's like, you're handed a manuscript of what to do step by step, and they throw it out, and then they're surprised when people don't like it. It's just, it aggravates the shit out of me. There's a restaurant chain in the UK called Harvester. Damn, you fucking recognize that shit quick. Like, what the? Famous salad bar.
surf and turf you out of the
Does
salad bar
America
with
have
full
a
save
famous
state being
salad bar?
available
'Cause
along
I've-
with built-in save options if the games included allowed it.
Perhaps we
I
should have a
don't
look at the
think we
games
have
on the little grey grandma then and see if that
famous
saves it in
salad
any way, shape or form.
Just kind of side thing.
Well, I'm
Oh
very
my
sorry,
God.
but that is what you buy this thing for over anything else. The games. So let's see if the official set list can save it in
Went
any
there
way at all.
yesterday, that's
This
right.
console
Nice,
had better start
nice.
getting good or I'm going to leak out of all my holes.
Well, immediately we know this isn't going to be the best way to play many of these games by default, since there are no analog sticks on the controllers bundled with the system, which not only means that games like Ape Escape or RC Stunt Copter wouldn't have made it on here period, but also means that other games that potentially benefit from analog control like Siphon Filter or Metal Gear Solid don't have that option out of the gate. Let's give it a fair shot though. Onto the games. Number 1, Battle Arena. Thank you. Well, to begin with, I don't think I've ever seen a versus match be labelled on the main menu as versus human before. Sounds like the console itself is alive. But following that, I'm not too sure about these characters either. Sophia looks like someone glued a Barbie head on a sandcastle, and I don't think I need to say anything about Foe. Where's his chin? What's he looking at? Is that a moustache or a fish stuck up his nose? Okay, well, I
damn.
personally can't let go of how much I love Foe's Fos, and my
Reading that old
stepdaughter is
man to
going
filth.
with Duke, who looks like he's saying his own name, like Duke. Our battle begins, and oh wow, oh my good god, holy shit. I'm so sorry to any Battle Arena Toshinden fans out there, but I feel like I'm controlling a dump truck stuck in a valley of jam. No matter what either of us do, we
Just
can't
looked
get
like
the game
his
to respond to our
stash, like,
inputs in a
swallowed
reliable
his
way.
jaw.
It's the stiffest 3D fighter I've ever played, and I'm saying that as someone who's played Tekken 1, which funnily enough came out on the same year for the PS1. What's going on here? I can appreciate how the game looks and the amount going on with being able to sidestep in and out of the environment. That's pretty ahead of its time, but this is at the expense of how hitboxes work and responsive button inputs. And I must question the body proportions of Rongo here. He's either hidden a mattress up his shirt or has bigger breeds than Lara Croft. I know we both don't know how to play the game at all, but I equally know nothing
Yeah,
about
thanks
how
again,
Street
Liam,
Fighter
for the
works, but can still
accidental
jump into a
gift
match
sub.
and enjoy myself. This game is just a slog to me, no thank you. But if you're curious, this is worth a look if you ever wanted to play a game as Wolverine's left nut. Laugh at me like that one more time and I'll see you in court. Game number 2, Cool Borders 2. I actually made a video about Cool Borders 3 a long ass time ago and absolutely couldn't stand it. So with this being the game that preceded it when
I
the
can't
company
wait to
had
watch that
even
one.
less of a clue of what they were doing, yeah, I didn't like this game either. If I couldn't get my character to jump off of a ramp, I then could, but then wasn't able to move in midair to perform any tricks, or I just glitched the camera out. Otherwise, on the racing side of things, I'm sorry Cool Borders fans, I just don't get this series and I never will. This is me trying to play the game to the best of my ability. This is me trying to get speed and the game keeping me at 8th place indefinitely no matter what I do. This is
Yeah,
me
I
trying to
can-
make remotely sharp turns.
Just watching this is making me frustrated. Like, I don't even have a controller in hand. I'm not playing this game, but just watching the gameplay is actually making me frustrated. I can feel the frustration through the screen.
And the game just not allowing me to do that because of one particular button being pushed down that shouldn't be, even though you need to slow down and speed up accordingly with the same buttons. Ugh, no, this is not what I think of when I see the words PlayStation and Classic together. Bugger off. Game 3, Destruction Derby. I've said this so many times and will say it once again. This is not only the worst of all the Destruction Derby PS1 games, but perhaps the most boring racing game I've ever played, and I don't get the undying love for it when people fondly remember the glory days of the
Sony's
PS1.
trying
This
to
is a
end
very
production
early
of
3D
Blu-ray
racer, and hot damn does it feel like it. No matter what track and what car I pick,
Or
Destruction Derby 1
digital
never
only
reaches any peak of
PS6.
excitement even close to what 2 or Raw are able to accomplish.
The way I already know, I'm not gonna buy that fucking shit. If there's like no physical, even though these days physical copies of games are 9 times out of 10 practically worthless, honestly. It's like, it's the principle of the thing though. It's like, if there's not gonna be any physical copies of it, it's like, I might as well just stick to being PC only then. What's the fucking point? What's the fucking point?
And even worse, it never seems to
'Cause
make
it's not
sense
like
because
they're-
sometimes I get
Sony's
points for wrecking
games
the
aren't
other
coming to
cars,
PC
but most
anyway.
of the time I don't. Cap this off with bland, repetitive music that never fits the mood of wrecking cars, and you get a game that's fun for around 3 minutes before making you want to quit it before even finishing lap 5 of an 8-lap race. Game 4, Final Fantasy VII. Now this is going to surprise you all. When I first played this game years
I
back,
fucking
I got about 3
loved
hours into it and
Twisted
totally
Metal.
gave up. It just wasn't gripping me. I even brought this up
I
in the
don't even know if
PS1
I
series
still
of Normal
have
Boots
the,
Madness I did recently. So why is it that after all this time with no
I don't know if I
major
still have
interest to
my
revisit it,
original disc
I'm
of it.
suddenly getting really hooked and want to keep the game going? If it weren't for the time I needed to make
need
this
to look
video,
for
I
it.
would have kept playing this honestly to see if I could see something in it a second time
I
around.
only
But
played the
until then,
first
stay
Twisted
cool,
Metal,
Final
though.
Fantasy
I
VII.
don't
I'm sure I'll pick you
remember
up
if
off
I
of the
ever
shelf
played
before you
any
go
other.
sour. Also, for most people, you can't think of PlayStation without thinking of Final Fantasy VII. The game is as iconic as can bloody be, so it makes perfect sense for it to be on here.
Hang on a second. Can I just boot that game up again quickly? Licensed by Sony Computer Entertainment America. But wait, the last 3 games before this were all European.
Yeah, we gotta remember this was
Are you
2019.
shitting me, Sony?
We gotta remember.
Are you pushing me out of your rectal
Before the
cavity?
downfall
If you don't
of
know
the
why this is a
entire
bad
planet.
thing, well, with European PAL games back in the day, like the ones I have on my shelf, they were released at the time at 50 Hz to comply with the TVs we had available at the time. American NTSC
God, it actually
games and
hurt my
identical copies
eyeballs
of the
trying to
same
read
games
those.
ran at a much smoother and faster 60 Hz, which you can see in something as simple as Crash Bandicoot. The game runs fine on PAL systems, but once you see how it's supposed to run on American systems, the issues become abundantly clear. PAL games are more choppy and slower by default, and the PS Classic, in the most baffling move I've ever seen for a Retro Classics collection, actually mixes in European and American versions of these games on the same damn console. Meaning some games run like they should, and others feel like a goddamn slideshow in comparison, especially when playing on a big TV, and I can't fathom a single logical reason as to why this was done. At this point, with so many European games on here, I could just grab them off my shelf, pop them in my PS3, and then play them that way in HD with wireless controllers, chances to have up to 4 players, analog sticks, more game selection, and with more options to play with to suit my needs. Oh, well, I mean, obviously minus the singular save state. This is even funnier to think about when hackers discovered you can simply plug a USB keyboard into the PS Classic itself, enter a debug menu by just hitting the escape key, and actually choose the regions for games on the system. Why not just have them all at
Xbox
NTSC
doing
by
that doesn't
default?
surprise
And you know what?
'Cause
I'm not
it's
going
like-
to do that because I'm judging this thing as it was
Activision
given to
Blizzard
me
is
off the shelves. And because
not
of
what
that, I
they
feel
used
like
to
I
be.
bought myself a really nice burrito. But it had a
not
fresh
what they
turn
used
in
to
it.
be.
Next game on the lineup, number 5, Grand Theft Auto, which I found surprisingly fun. I've never played the original GTA before, but I really want to give it another go. It's like Micro Machines. And once again, if I had a little bit more time, I would have kept playing. The driving physics are fun, the writing is dark and witty, it doesn't look half bad for a PS1 game, and my god, you know you're playing one of the best games ever made when you have to accelerate your main character running around the street by pushing the X button. Game number 6, Intelligence Cube, also known as Kuroshi in PAL regions. I've said this many a time before and stand by my views. This is a great puzzle game for the PS1 and one of the most memorable for me personally.
See, this is why I don't
can only get
recognize
around
it.
5 to 10 minutes of enjoyment of it
puzzle
at a
game.
time before getting all itchy and wanting to shave my eyebrows off. I will always remember this game from my childhood though. If not for the simple and addictive nature, then for some of the most daunting sound effects for a puzzle game I've ever heard in my life. Number 7, Jumping Flash, a game that has dated by a fair amount with the advent of first-person
Elvis has
games just
left the
being
building.
better as
That's kinda-
technology has
that's kinda
increased,
neat.
but still a fascinating little ride for anyone looking to get into PS1 and well worthy being on this system. I was able to jump in and have a blast with this straight away like I always have done every time I replay this game, while at the same time appreciate all that it did for the games of its genre, especially for the year 1995. This must have blown people away back in the day. And somehow it controls decently and it's pretty clear where to go and what to do. It's amazing. It's cute, engaging, artistically unique, has a totally
Yeah, I've only
boring
played
soundtrack, and
GTA
you're a
3
cybernetic
and
rabbit
onward.
flying around shooting frogs
never
in top
played the
hats. What's
first
not to
two.
love? Game 8, Metal Gear Solid. Do I even need to try explaining why this game was included on this console? It must be pretty obvious by this point. Metal Gear Solid 1 was considered by many to be one of the best games, if not the best game
Really?
ever
Metal
made when
Gear
it first
Solid?
came out.
I never
and if
heard
Crash
of
Bandicoot or
it.
Final
What?
Fantasy VII didn't say it to the PS1, this game did. I'm also thrilled to report that even though I only jumped in for 10 minutes or so, it's still a really damn fun and tense game to play despite the limitations. Don't need to say much else, it's bloody Metal Gear Solid. Number 9, Mr. Driller.
Okay, well, this is a game that far from springs to my mind the second I think of the word PlayStation, but I'm sure I can give it a fair shot. I've never even heard of this game before until now, but yeah, I'll give it a fair
Yeah,
shot.
honestly, I was one of those lucky ones where it's like my
I
parents.
would give it a fair shot if this
Oh my
game
God.
was 20 decibels
Hello?
louder than every other game on this plastic grey paperweight.
Why
It's
this
so
game in particular
loud.
is so loud, don't ask, I have no idea. Although my theory is
My
that if the
parents
music
didn't
didn't
really
kick
pay
you in the
attention
sack the
to,
second you booted it up, you wouldn't
how
remember
old you
the
were
game at
supposed to
all
be for
otherwise, so
certain video
congrats on that,
games.
Sony. I will never forget Mr. Driller ever again. And that's because
it's
the
like-
game itself is... Well,
was-
it's
back
fine,
then it was
it's a
like-
game. You run around and try
a lot
to
of
dig
people's
your way
thoughts
to the bottom
were,
of a mine shaft,
if
all
it's
the
a
while
video
trying
game,
not to let
it's
the
a
above
game. That
platforms and
means it's for
materials fall on
children.
your head and being quick
That
enough to
means
grab
there's
air
not
so
an
you can
age
keep on drilling
requirement.
down. That's really all
Like,
this
that was the
game is.
thought
It's like Dig
process.
Dug, but without Sonic the Hedgehog inflation. I mean, even if there were some people out there that considered this a PS1 classic, good on you, I guess, but... Really? The game's fine, there's nothing really wrong with it, but there's also nothing really that much to it, and because of that, I'm bored now. Game 10, Oddworld Abe's Odyssey. Now, I really would have preferred Abe's Exodus personally for all the extra features and vast amount more game to it, but I mean,
never played
it's goddamn Abe's Odyssey. I would have kicked and screamed if any kind of Oddworld game didn't end up on this collection. They're PlayStation royalty as far as I'm concerned, and Abe's Odyssey is one of the most unique artistic visions in video games ever made, with some of the coolest and out there game mechanics of its time, let alone just on the PS1. And I suppose the major issue with it causing frustration, being the lack of quick saves that Abe's Exodus has, is mitigated by the save state feature built into the console, so aside from emulating it, this is probably the best way to play the first Abe game as it is.
Hello, follow me. Okay.
Game 11, halfway there. Rayman 1. I did a full video about this game a while back, and where I love half of it, the other half is some of the most trial and error cow deposit I've ever experienced in a platformer. However, I can understand its inclusion as a PS1 classic. Lots of people associate Rayman 1 with it, and unfortunately Rayman 2 on PS1 isn't the best version of that particular game. So yeah, I do get this choice even though I'm not the biggest diehard fan of it. Oh wait, what? Oh no, what is going on here? Oh my god, really? Okay, I know this is one of the USA region ROMs, but what the hell is going on with this snagging in the gameplay? I never got this while I played it on my emulator, so what's going on here? Rayman is too beautiful of a game to be subjected to this. I wasn't too interested to get far into this game for this video, but now I feel like I'm losing my eyesight. Next game, number 12, Resident Evil. Well, I mean, aside from it being the choppier PAL version, this is as untouched and pure Resident Evil 1 can be. It's got all the great gameplay, all the great atmosphere, all the great voice acting,
Master of unlocking.
and even got the version different from the PS Store with the correct and much better soundtrack.
Let me take care of this.
Thank the Lord for that. Game number 13, Persona. So this is the first game ever in the Persona series that I do own the fourth of on Vita, but have yet to play. Once again, I didn't have anywhere near enough time to properly dig into it, but I can tell you two things. One,
you need to
I thought
take
the
like
art style
a
was
month
really
or
cool,
two
and two,
vacation
I was
just to get
absolutely
through one
smitten by this world the
Persona
game
game.
gave me. I had no clue what
And
was
I haven't
going on,
even
but I was
played
so
them.
desperate to see where it was
And I
going,
know
and it
that.
was kind of spooky actually, especially when the most slender of men appeared out of thin air and started talking at me about monsters that live
Gotta
inside
watch
you
for
like
those
Alien, but not quite
slender
like Alien because it's actually
men.
magic and not.
My name is Philemon.
What?
Philemon.
Phil Lamar?
Philemon.
Ah,
What?
right, okay, I've got you. I could swear I popped a rather nasty Philemar on the back of my neck yesterday.
Oh my
And when I was allowed to
fucking
run around my
God,
school in
Caddy.
first person, I gotta say it looks pretty damn impressive and runs well for early first person PS1 games, especially in something as huge as an RPG. But I mean, I'm not here to give you a review of the game. I didn't even get to any combat or whatever you do in this game. I even named my main character Crisps. That's how seriously you could see I was taking it. Crisps, are you okay? Game 14, Ridge Racer Type 4, where I don't think this game has anywhere near the same cultural impact or iconic PS1 status as the other Ridge Racer games like Ridge Racer Revolution, for instance. I can't deny that this is a very good arcade racer and arguably the best Ridge Racer for the PS1, so all things considered, I understand its inclusion. But it is just racing over and over again, not much else I can say for now, so let's move on. I think a test drive game would have been a better option here. Game 15, Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, another puzzle game, but one of the more stand out for the system and incredibly stylish. It's basically Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but with Street Fighter characters. And the better combos and larger connections you make with other colors, the more damage you do to your opponent. This is great fun with two players or even going against the computer. It's satisfying, has great music and sound effects, looks really damn good for it being a simple puzzle game where you're looking mainly at this and never at this. I've had this game on my shelves for a while now and I have been meaning to have a look at it, so who knows, maybe I will. This is a good one. Game 16, Siphon Filter. Now where I don't think this game is terrible, I've played a fair amount of it before and I
recognize this
personally wouldn't
game,
go as
but I
far as to
don't think
call
I've
it a
ever played it.
PlayStation classic. It's a little bit too dated and slippery in terms of control for me to recommend you going back to it. You know, it's very triggers run left and right while you tank control Gabe Logan running around and making ridiculously heavy turns while you try and aim at people accurately that will kill you instantly. Which is
Yeah, I
funny
think
because
we've
this game
watched-
released in
We've
1999
either
and yet
watched
the
stuff
original
on here
Tomb
about
Raider came
this, or I've
out 3
watched it
years
on my
before.
downtime.
Yet despite a very similar control scheme is much more
But I've never
responsive and
played it.
accurate. Plus it's easier to shoot things and swap through equipped
Tomb
weapons. Why isn't
Raider.
Tomb Raider on this thing? I can understand some people having fond memories of Siphon Filter, but for me, nah, this isn't classic material in my opinion. Unlike Game 17, Tekken 3. Objectively the best Tekken game for the PS1,
Music
even
is
if I have a
amazing,
softer
but the game
nostalgia
is
spot for
only
Tekken
okay.
2. It's still a blast to play, it still looks great, it still has the crazy number of combos and grabs, it still has all the additional modes and characters that make it as great as it is. It's Tekken 3. Game 18, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
Yeah, it's
Well, the
kinda
first
crazy
person
when
view
you
is
think
very
about it.
impressive and runs very smoothly for
But
PS.
like, I don't know if anybody else does this, but it's like, for some games I either don't like or have never played, like they still have amazing music, amazing soundtracks. So I'll still listen to the soundtrack and the music and shit, but I won't play the game or like the game. It's kind of crazy when you think about it that you would listen to the music but wouldn't really recommend the game.
One, that is until I found a window, shot it and went through it, then found a wooden board,
Raider
shot it and went
remix
through, and
is
died
coming
before my
out
feet even touched the
February.
ground.
Oh, your birthday month? Oh.
Okay, game 19,
Happy early
Twisted
birthday.
Metal. There we go, much more PS Classic material, even though I've heard the sequels are better. You drive around and bomb other cars
Yeah, I
with
need to
missiles
get
and
the
machine guns in destructible environments. It's hectic,
Tomb
violent
Raider
car mourning that
remix.
Destruction Derby 1 wishes it had, and definitely fits more
But
with the
the
heritage of the
latest
PlayStation.
remakes,
I mean, the clown in the
I
game known
need
as
to
Sweet
get
Tooth even ended up in
because
PS All-Stars.
I think I remember playing the original Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3, but I can't remember anything past that. And I know some of the later ones got fucking out there crazy.
So you know that means it's special. And that finishes us off with Game 20, Wild
Twisted
Arms. Once
Metal.
again, I've never played this one before, but Christ almighty did I want to keep
Twisted
going.
Metal.
I've heard from so many people how great
Will
this game
always
is and how
be
much it helped define
OP.
JRPGs on the PlayStation. And even cooler, it's set in the Wild West. Well, I assume it is. If it isn't set in the Wild West, it's Wild Western themed at least. And that soundtrack, I have only heard a few minutes of it, but god damn, it's great. I've heard people call this a PS classic all the damn time, and after only a few minutes of play, I'm hooked. So I guess they weren't talking a load of Billy Ball. A good way to close off the list of games, if you ask me.
Billy Ball.
Yeah. That is the whole set list of the PS Classic. Kind of just exists, doesn't it? There are some great games in there, there are some bad games in there, there are even a couple of classics in there, I'll give them that much, but none of that means anything when you consider how inconsistent this system is in terms of quality and for how much money they were asking for it when it first came out.
The lesson here, though, after all of this, is that if companies want people to stop downloading ROMs and emulating classic games from the past, make getting access to your products worth a damn. Nintendo are really stingy when it comes to selling their classic games already, but at least with the SNES Classic and even NES Classic gave you an alternate way to have a large collection of some of the best games on their systems, not only with a cute plastic emulator shell and charming spades for the UI, but also made them both in total less than buying all of the games on the system via the Nintendo eShop. The PS Classic is simply not worth the asking price, and it definitely should not have been called the Classic. Speaking as someone who grew up with, loves to death, and is fondly nostalgic over the PS1, this doesn't take me back at all, aside from a few games on the pack that do, which I can just play on my PS3 for cheaper anyway, or even on the go with my Vita. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think PlayStation Classic and think Mr. Driller, Persona, Grand Theft Auto, or Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. And the licensing doesn't even make that much sense to me. I understand not including games like Toy Story 2 or Tony Hawk because they're actual out-of-game brands and even celebrities, so copyright must be tricky. But when they can get Konami's NGS, why can't they get Castlevania or Silent Hill? If they can get Namco's Ridge Racer Type 4, Mr. Driller, and Tekken 3, why can't they get Klonoa, one of the best PS1 games of all time? If they can get Capcom's Resident Evil or Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo, why can't they get any Mega Man games? How about the games that everybody immediately associates with PlayStation like Crash and Spyro? The remasters are both on PlayStation systems nowadays, and the original games are still PS exclusive, so what's all that about? And hey, what about dead franchises that people would like to see
Gex.
return and that I can't see much licensing issue with, like Gex
Yomi
or
keeps telling me I
Tombi?
need
I mean, I'm not going to
Gex
pretend I
games.
know anything to do with video game politics. I'm
Because
no
I think that's one of the
troll or
games.
dumb. But when my PS3 has more and better options to download from PlayStation's online store, along with the ability to play some PS2 games and all PS3 games, why wouldn't I just do that? Why is Medieval on the PS Store but not on the Classic, especially with the currently PS4 exclusive remake in the works? How about Hot Shots Golf, or Everybody's Golf in the UK, or maybe even any of the Wipeout games? I mean, these are still to this day Sony properties. Why couldn't they use any of these? All you're paying for with the PS Classic is a plastic shell, and I'm gonna wreck it. Actually, I think I'll just hack it.
Okay, well I won't, I'm not that skilled, but thanks to this fine gentleman on Twitter, he showed me exclusive footage of the roulette wheel of games he has hacked onto his own PlayStation Classic.
God
And
damn.
since this plastic shell is too adorable to destroy for me, I think this is the next best thing I'm gonna do with it. Give the system the set list that it truly deserves.
In the end, though, I don't really need to say anything more about the PS Classic other than what happened to the
So
price of it
fucking
in the
tiny.
UK. This thing retailed when
Literally
it
fit
first
in my
came out at
pocket.
£89.99, which is, by the way, £20 more than what the SNES Classic Classic cost. And I'm not even kidding, after 1 month of
Gets
it being
remixed
out, I was
off
seeing
the
it in
sale
sale
for
racks for
limited run games? Oh, damn.
£30. And even nowadays, the base
Yes.
price of it has gone down significantly.
Listen. The big wigs and the corpos at the top of the video game industry can try to say, like, sales have never been better, they're making all this money. But the way people are clamoring and hoping for remakes and remasters and shit of older games, it just speaks so loudly that they're not making their money because of good games. They're making their money because of microtransaction bullshit. Like, they milk 1 or 2 games for like a year, probably less, because it's getting bad out there. And then they move on to the next one. It's like, you're not selling good games. You're selling microtransactions. It's and the occasional remake remaster. Like,
It really does feel like Sony rushed
let's
this thing
not
out to the shops to
pretend
cash
it's
in on
anything
Nintendo's
else.
success with the miniature console market and do it right before Christmas 2018 hit so it could be the perfect gift for a PlayStation fan.
Yeah,
Personally, I wouldn't
honestly,
even be
it's
surprised if I
hard
found out
to,
that they had actually contacted multiple publishers and developers to
play any
get the
game
rights for
these days
certain
without
games to use on this thing.
microtransactions.
But because Christmas 2018 was so close and this thing really does feel like they made it at the last
Even
minute,
like
they didn't get any phone
campaign
calls or emails
story
back in
games
time, and
where
so
it's
just
one
throw
player
whatever they could
or
instead.
something.
And I'm not a marketer, I'm not a publisher, I'm not a developer, so I can't
It's like
tell
they
you how
still
these
try to
things
find a
work
way.
behind the scenes, but I am just calling it as I see it. And my advice to you is don't buy it. Don't even wait for a sale of it. There's just nothing to it. There's no point wasting your money on it. But I suppose that the really dinky cute size of it makes it good for one thing.
Honey,
Yeah.
what the hell are you doing?
I'm catching my poo.
No!
Hey everybody, thanks for
Oh
watching.
my
Do you want to see some
God.
outtakes from today's video? There are some
God
crackers in this
damn it,
one, I
Caddy.
tell you. Well, just stay tuned for a second because I've got a few things to talk about. First of all, I'd love to thank every single person on the screen right now that has supported me via Patreon. And secondly, notice these at all? Yeah, these new headphones on my head. Well, a couple of months ago, the guys at Sennheiser and Mastrop were incredibly kind to me and sent me a brand new pair of their brand new HD 58X Jubilee headphones. And so they are sponsoring today's
That is
video
a
because
lot of
these
letters and
things are
numbers.
fantastic and I've been using them religiously over the last few months. If you're looking for a high-end audio experience you'd try to find in a $500 pair of headphones but want it at a much more affordable price at $150, these
Yeah,
are the headphones
I've
that you get. They're rated
never
5
heard of
stars all
these
over the web and are
headphones.
constantly selling out for a reason. They're incredibly well built, nice and solid, yet
150
lightweight,
bucks.
and also they just give off this incredibly
What's that in
crisp,
today's
clear, yet
money?
bassy sound. Not to
300?
mention they're very comfortable
400?
and will last you many years, and I have been using Sennheiser headphones for the longest time I can remember, so I
This was
really
back in
appreciate the sponsorship, guys. These are
2019,
fantastic
so-
headphones. Thank you so much. If you want to find out more about the headphones yourself, go to the link in the description below and hopefully pick yourself up a pair. And just before the outtakes come on today, special thanks to all the top tier Patreon supporters for this month. Omar Matu, Basil, Carl Hakkinen, Gamerman, I Have a Portal Gun, Exopaz, Matthew Hubble, Mills Kahai, Brandon, Binary Code, Kirsten B, Cyberpunk Symphony, Nicole Ganara, Nathan Young, Victor Patrick Bauer, Robert Alamsha, The Game Shed, Daniel Leon, Braden Kenny, Jake Delahaye 2008, Mitchell Reed, A.D. Thornton Smith, and Maximilian Ely. Thank you so much, every single one of you amazing people.
But none of that really
There we
matters
go.
when you consider how inconsistent.
And let me step back so we can see the full horror.
Okay, well, see, I can get them
Okay.
up
Damn.
there.
It's so wrong.
I love it. Yeah! If I'll zoom into my head.
The way I couldn't help him film this shit, like
Yeah?
if I was the person in the room that had to help him film all this, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. That was the moves of a man that couldn't believe himself. It's like, what am I doing? He was just in disbelief of himself. But yeah, I remember when these new slash old consoles started coming out. I didn't realize they were so fucking tiny. I just remember the cords being like a foot, maybe, probably shorter. Like, and a lot of people were complaining about how short the cords were for the controllers and shit. That's all I remember. And then after a while, I didn't hear shit. Like, it's like they weren't really that big of a deal, because it was like they were basically just emulator boxes that everybody already had if you had a PC. The PC usually did it better. Or like people that have made their own, like hackers and shit, just casually doing better than billion-dollar companies. It's crazy.